Let's
to
look
the
at this
next
one
session.
quickly. So we talked about the DoD in a previous episode,
Yeah.
and I mentioned that they were looking for a new chief data and AI officer,
Right.
and they just hired somebody from internal in their ranks, and that was really interesting to see. Particularly, but what's really interesting me. I find intriguing about the DoD is just how much effort they're putting into this and how much focus they've got on it. So here's another thing about the DoD, talking about how much they're spending. 249 million blanket purchase agreement for AI providers, looking at one thing is bias in their AI. So one company, Arthur, I'm going to look at
I know those guys.
Great stuff. Help monitor AI models to avoid bias and inaccuracy.
Yeah.
You don't need an AI ethics board. You need software. This is a great one.
Right.
What else have they done? Data Robots Cloud AI platform.
I saw that they signed something with them. Yep. They also signed up a Scale. Scale's providing them some content.
A massive one. C3 AI, company I like a lot. C3 they've got a great enterprise AI platform. Probably hubris driven, like to call themselves the best in the world, but I think it's good anyway. Massive $500 million deal. Not sure.
Oh, I didn't see that one come through.
But it looks like they're moving into defense, which is natural for them because they do oil and gas and focus on a lot of those areas.
Right.
But again, lots of effort they're putting into this. Then looking at this, Department of Defense Joint AI Center recently launched new AI education pilots for thousands of DoD employees. So love that, because for me, it all starts with education.
Right.
And that the DoD is putting together AI 101 course. They should have done it with me instead of.
I was going to say, why didn't they pick you to do this? Because this is exactly what the masterclass is.
It is, and
disappointing.
I with AI with the DoD, so I missed out.
They probably just didn't hear about you in time.
Well, we didn't.
We didn't get there.
A veterans discount as well.
That's right.
But anyway, great to see that they're focusing on education. But really interesting if you're in enterprise. So if you talked about the military or the Department of Defense, you would think they're lagging behind. But look at this. These guys are on the ball and have got their act together and now have a chief to run that. Here's a quick plug for Arthur. So we mentioned that earlier. Great technology. Something that all enterprises should have is technology to monitor things like optimization, explainability, bias, mitigation. Use it through software. That's Arthur.
This is going to be a burgeoning field. I've talked to a number of companies in this space. Broadly, it's still the terminology is not clearly defined, but there's this sort of overlapping set of Venn diagrams that kind of cover governance, risk, compliance, monitoring, bias detection, observability, explainability, and I'm not quite sure how those bubbles overlap yet. But Arthur's in there.
I think the ultimate, when you'll see a Forrester wave of those companies, the ones that are leading are the ones that are merging that Venn diagram, because I think all of those things you mentioned are all key layers on top, and of course, the platforms that are out there already will probably start building these things in as features as well.
Yeah. I did a podcast with William Uppington he's the CEO and one of the founders or founder of True Era. And they're in that space as well. They're doing, they sort of come at it from the angle almost of the Toyota sort of focused Kaizen quality manufacturing perspective, where they're like, quality output comes from quality model design and process, which was a really interesting angle. So they're sort of in this space as well.
Yeah. So two key things there: software for your monitoring and your explainability and bias, and the DoD seems to be getting its act together pretty well.
That's great. I know our mutual friend Dan Fagello will be happy to hear that. He's done some excellent podcasts with a number of folks from the DoD, inside and outside, talking about the U.S. military sort of response and the Joint AI Center and things like that. So,
I think you can see from that they've got high-level sponsorship, which is great to see.
No, that is great. I think that's probably all we have time for on today's session, but great bunch of news articles. It's interesting to see some progress across all these different dimensions. I'm not quite sure. I think Ian and I have been talking about our frequency of these enterprise AI news updates. We haven't quite got that locked in, but I'm sure that'll converge over time. But I think that's all we have for today. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks, Ian.
Bye.
Bye-bye.